Hello. Welcome to our February meeting of the Silicon Valley Mac User Group. I'm actually your normal user group host, Charles Goucher, and I've been seeing a whole lot of scams out there in the internet these days. It's been getting me very, very paranoid. I'm starting to come to the opinion that the internet basically was just made to cheat you out of all of your money. But in order to work with that, you really need to understand what it is that is being thrown at you, and know how it is that you can actually spot them. It's like, oh yeah, that's a scam. There's plenty of people out there who apparently are missing some of the telltale signs. So I'm hoping to show you some of those. I've got some great examples for you. So, first off, just thinking about scams themselves. We're talking about 3.4 billion phishing emails just sent out an email per day. I believe that is US only. So the figure here mentions 40 per month per person. Obviously, that's going to vary considerably by how much you're active yourself on the internet and how much your email address has gotten out into the wild. The more places you visit, the more websites you go to, probably the more email lists that your email is going to show up on. Text messaging is also getting to be rather rampant at this point. 700 million malicious text messages sent out per day. I know in my case, I'm actually managing to get 3 or 4 of the things each day. So it's tremendously annoying. It's actually made me question whether I want to keep my phone number. And the amount of money lost is going up incredibly fast on the things. $10 billion were lost to scams in 2024 just for tax scams. Just saying, we have your tax refund ready, or we need to get more information before we can send out your tax form. Different things like that. And $8,000 per person who were caught by some of these things. So you can stand to lose a lot of money on the things. So let's take a look at a few of the ones that have been coming through, the prevailing ones. Let's start with emails. You may have gotten a few of these over the last couple of months or in the last year or two. You get this message saying, oh, hi there. I hacked your computer a while ago, and I've been taking video recordings of you doing various embarrassing and compromising things in front of your computer. I'm prepared to send video of that out to all your friends and family, and I know exactly who they are because I've been reading everything on your computer. Save yourself the embarrassment if you just give me like $1,000 in Bitcoin. I promise I'll delete it and move on. Of course, first thing, don't actually believe that they would actually do that. If you give them money, they'll just ask for more money. They're not going to be honest. Come on, they're not starting as honest. But there are a number of things, just looking at a typical email like this from them, that gives you some signs that things are not honest. First of all, you notice that the text in here has a number of odd characters showing up on things. These guys have actually gone so far as to use alternative characters from the Unicode set so that you don't have regular text here. The reason for that is because the spam filters actually know what all of these different statements are, and especially with artificial intelligence, they now recognize the theme of the text. But if they throw a whole bunch of these characters in, the system gets confused and can't translate it. So that's a kind of a clever trick. So watch out for some of those sort of things. The general statement that these guys always have, it's like, I have complete access to all of your computers and everything that you do. No, No, they don't. If they did, your money would already be gone. So it's lovely, those sort of things. Oh yes, and similarly on that, they say, oh yes, and proof that I have hacked your computer because I've sent you this email from your own computer. See, your name is in the from field. You can put any name you like in the from field. That's not hard. So one of the biggest parts on all of this, of course, is the piece at the bottom. There is always a time limit. There is always pressure. There is always get on this, move quick, quick, because they don't want you thinking about this. They want you to react. They want you to get an emotional item and the things and do something before you have a chance to stop and consider. So my general recommendation, when you get things like this, step back and wait. If there is something actually happening, one message is not all there's going to be. These people will come back and say something else, and then you can start assessing whether it's legitimate or not. Luckily, 99, like the vast majority of the cases out there on these sort of things, they're sending out messages to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. They're never going to look at you as an individual again. So in most cases, if you just delete it, you'll never hear from that particular person ever again. If they come back and it's like, oh, hang on a second, I sent you this and you didn't say something, well, then you would actually have an indication that there's real people involved and you can start making different assessments. Next kind of piece. This is getting into text messaging on things. Apple security alert. We found that a recent Apple Store purchase. This looks suspicious and we need to know if this was not you, please call this number. If it is you, well, then it's fine. And we'll charge the amount immediately. First thing to note, Apple security alert, not from Apple. Odd. You'll notice that there's a couple of grammar and spelling errors in the midst of all of this. Let's see. Also, some suspicious sign-in request and Apple Pay activation request detected. Well, that's not great language. That looks like suspicious to us. Very much not great language. Oh, and you'll see in the first section there, it says Apple Pay pre-authorization, capitalized. Next line has Apple Pay in small letters. The real Apple would never do that. So there's always just those little subtle things in there. So more urgency involved in things. Failure may lead to auto debit and charge will not be reversed. And then they want you to call the phone number. This is one of the biggest important parts of the whole thing. This is not really wanting you to respond back to the text. They want you calling that phone number. It's not Apple, and there's more happening after that. I'll have more to discuss on that a little later on. Another of the common pieces out there, misrouted package. I imagine that everyone here has actually seen a couple of these pop up in their text messages of late because these are getting to be everywhere. The U.S. Post Office can't deliver its package because the address isn't correct. Or, we can't tell where your thing is, or you weren't there to pick it up or sign for it or some similar sort of thing on that. Please confirm your zip code address information within the next 24 hours and so forth. Couple of things to note here. First of all, the phone number this thing was sent from. +63 area code. I looked it up. It's in the Philippines. Last I checked, the U.S. Post Office doesn't run through the Philippines. So there's a good big hint. Again, you've got the urgency on there, which in most cases, the legitimate ones are not going to be that concerned with. Please go to the following URL of things, and it's like usertrackdrq.top. Never heard of it. Sure doesn't sound like U.S. Post Office. And then section at the bottom here. This takes a little bit of explanation. Please reply to this message with a yes, exit the test message, and open it again to activate the link, or copy the link as you see it into your Safari browser. That's because Apple recognizes that this is coming from an unknown user. And as a result of that, has disabled any links in the text message. So you can't just click and go automatically there. But if you do like they say here, it bypasses that security and enables those links to work directly again. The fact that they're putting that into the text message is an immediate sign that this is a scam. If you ever see anything that actually telling you to do something of this, I guarantee you it is a scam. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Here is another one in similar measure on things. Fast Track, our local toll road system. Please pay to avoid excessive late fees or potential legal action. Uh-oh, I might get actually sued over this thing. Well, I guess I'd better do something. Again, we have instructions to bypass the Apple security. That's a big one. We have those phone numbers from the Philippines again. That's a big one. But there's something interesting here in addition, and this is one you really have to pay attention to and watch out for. Take a look at this HTTPS URL. It says thetollroads.com, which I don't think is actually a legitimate site, but whatever. But that's not the full address. tollroads.com-l780.cfd. That's the full address. This is not a .com. This is a .cfd. This could go anywhere. And there are a lot of people putting a lot of messages in and like saying things like, oh, yes, this is like wellsfargo.com dash animal.uec. And it's like, okay, no. Pay attention to where those things are, and you need to go looking for that first slash at the end, because your actual host name, top level, does not end until you hit that slash. And then a much more common example of things. This one I got through email. Hello, your package, you have one package, cannot deliver, no one present to sign for it. Gives a tracking ID and so forth. A couple of things that I noticed on this thing. First of all, it's not text. It's not formatted text. It is one big JPEG picture. And that one big JPEG picture has a web link attached to it. So if you click anywhere in the purple, it will go off to a particular address. But in addition to that, hello, dear customer, you have one package. There's no name. There's no specifics that says it's you that they're sending it to. It's very, very generic. So it's a great thing for them because they can send that same thing out to 100,000 people and it doesn't matter because they'll all, it's like, oh, it's personal. No, it's not personal at all. And even if this were in text and had individual links everywhere, in cases like this, as I've noted, I noticed on this one, every one of those links uses the same web link URL, including the unsubscribe at the bottom. That's another of the telltale signs. If you actually go into a lot of these things and hover over the individual links, you can see where they go. And, it's like, oh yeah, for information, you have this URL. And for unsubscribe, you have that URL. And for our privacy policy, go to this third URL, except they're all the same URL. And for, another one of those telltale signs of definitely a scam. So I looked at this thing and I wondered, okay, so you've got this different things. And it's like, there was no one delivered it. Please fill in the missing information. So I wonder what kind of information they actually want. So, okay, let's find out what happens if I click on one of these things. I noticed that my browser then proceeded across 4 different forwarding sites before finally landing on somebody else. And the message it indicated was, sorry, your package appears to be missing. Well, okay, but we never actually told you what that package was. And there was no distinct information about that. So, hmm. So a offer is a compensation on the thing, saying, we'd like to offer you a compensation product of up to $100 in value. Click here and now enter your personal info. And there's where they want you to go so that you'll enter your name, give them your address, give them maybe even some billing information. Even better if you offer up your account information, they can take over, say, a FedEx account or a PayPal account. So watch out for a few of these things. And it is actually amazing to me seeing how many different sites on these things. I mean, it's the forwarding that it had of going from one address to another address to another address. That's actually a pretty common tactic on these things because you have hundreds of hacked sites, and they typically want to lead you to one in particular that has all of their scam software installed and ready. And with that, they can, you can move along from there, and then they can just take over as many other computers as they can and have them all point to one server. So not bad. Other pieces. How many fake invoices have you received in the last few months? This is a note from PayPal. This is a note from Amazon. This is a note from other people. I actually, for some reason, have gotten a huge number of things talking about subscriptions to McAfee antivirus. Ideally, what you're supposed to do is look at it as like, wait a minute, I didn't buy that. And again, call the phone number attached. These are getting to be interesting pieces out there because there are no links on this page. There is nothing saying, click this link, which is not the usual way of doing things. Instead, all it tells you is call this phone number. Because again, they want you to call the number where they can start working on you verbally instead. So a couple of pieces, telltale signs that you can find on this. From address at the top. That's not PayPal. In fact, if I look a little bit closer in this one, which I can't do on the graphic here, it's actually from iCloud. So somebody created an iCloud account to send these out. The to address, it's a purchase transaction, but it's gone to 300 other people. And again, we have spelling and grammar errors. Item ordered. 1, your billing information. That's terrible. We notice an unauthorized transaction. Shouldn't that be we noticed? Yeah. Now, granted, spelling errors and grammar errors are going to be a lot harder to find now that we have generative AI and artificial intelligence stuff coming very strongly into play because the systems there are much, much better at generating proper native English than a lot of these, run through a typical translator can come up with. So spelling and grammar errors may not be visible anymore after this. But hopefully by now, when you're looking at some of these things, just the way it's set up should give you enough to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and say, wait a minute. But then even in the old ones, those were sent out on an iCloud account, on a Hotmail account, on other such stuff as being spoofed on the things. They've done one better now. They have created or hacked into some of the payment systems, and they're now actually sending out legitimate messages on the things. It's a fake account, it's a fake invoice, but it's coming from the real people. And DocuSign at this point is one of the heaviest impacted by this. As I understand, DocuSign actually had one of their marketing servers hacked, and it has been getting used as a source for spam and false emails for almost a year now. And they haven't figured out, I guess, how to clean it out or similar sorts of things on that. Some sources actually have the ability to just automatically post those from Office 365. I think that's how PayPal gets it out. But if you look at the message at the actual email, you'll find at the bottom of the thing, all the stuff at the bottom is real from DocuSign and all legitimate, honest links. But the header, of course, is coming from a fake account. So these can get tricky, but you've got to use some of the other options on this to see the differences in the thing. Again, they want you calling the phone number. They don't offer any other actual like spammy links or anything like that. They want you calling. So this might actually be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about that, because the attacks are getting much more hybrid in nature now. And it's not just a question of go to this web page or click on this link. If you can get them to call, or sorry, if they can get you to call, I should say, then they can spend much more time convincing you that they are who they say they are. They can get you to reveal things that you didn't think you were actually revealing. Could be as simple as a name. Just the fact that you called them gives them your phone number. And they can very quickly build up the necessary materials to possibly just get you to hand over money directly. Maybe just enough information that they can go take a look at the banks and hack into your accounts based on what they know about you, which is possible. There are plenty of venues on the things, and some of these calls, they're very good at keeping you on the phone, and they can keep you there for 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes they'll do the hack while you're on the phone. Sometimes they'll just take what they have, say, oh, I'm sorry, there's a problem. We'll call you back later, and then go rob you of everything you have. So there's lots of options on the things, and the phone number, getting calls, especially to now to like 800 numbers, 866, 810, 855, all those sort of numbers, seems to be the now prevailing way of dealing with these things. And we have a late entry on these things. You may remember Robert did a presentation last month on latest AI generative videos and posted that up, as we do, on YouTube. We got a comment in the YouTube from a guy saying, wonderful stuff. Can you help me with this? I have a crypto wallet and I have the seed phrase, which is crypto's private key in effect. Here's the private key. How should I, can somebody help me transferring this out to a more legitimate crypto vault? Well, they posted the private key to their vault. And there are plenty of people out there who would actually look at that as like, well, you just gave me the login, all the keys to get into your money. And they will actually go out and look at the vault and is like, ooh, hey, this vault has $5,000 in it. If I just type a few commands in here, that $5,000 can now be mine. This is preying on people who are dishonest to begin with, which is an interesting new twist. It doesn't work that way. The accounts are actually set up so that you have to pay a transfer fee of, I think, like 10%, something amount like that. And the money goes to some completely different direction. So the whole thing is a scam from the beginning. It's just cute. And in this case, it's actually happening to the scammers. So they're starting to eat themselves in some respects. Oh, let's try that again. So as a general thing, if you're doing crypto, or for that matter, any sort of encryption, don't post your private keys ever. It's just asking for troubles. So Apple, it seems, has not been entirely exempt in some ways from this. These are all various messages that we have gotten from Apple. Um, First one at the top, compromised passwords. A little box pops up in the center of the screen. This is usually just after an OS update saying, oh yeah, the passwords for et cetera and so forth account and 5 others have appeared in a data leak. Please click this link to resecure your accounts. Well, that's highly suspicious. Second one of the things, we had an order placed in the Apple Store, and Linda got this. This is the entirety of the email that she got saying, due to an unexpected delay, your pickup date has changed. An unexpected delay, and it was earlier than the original scheduled pickup date. Now, granted, in this case, we were looking at the thing and saying, okay, email when your order is ready, or visit the order status. This had no ulterior links. The mail was coming from Apple. We're looking at this saying, how is this a scam? Because there was no mechanism for any scam here. So we checked in on that, and it turns out all of these are real. The shipping delay. We checked with Apple directly. We called the store, which is what we recommend you do in this kind of situation, and say, did you send this out? And they looked at it and went, well, apparently so. But they confirmed that the details as listed in it were very correct. It was just sent in a rather suspicious manner. The piece at the top, compromised password. This is actually correct functionality. Apple instituted a team up with Have I Been Pwned that actually checks any login sites that you have saved in your Safari keychain and lets you know if any of them have actually been showing up on the dark web. They're not the only one that do this. The 1Password manager actually does something very similar through a feature they call the Watchtower. They're generally workable on things. But again, this is a message that pops up in the center of your screen and tells you to click this link. By now, you should get an idea that that's not what you should do, even if it's Apple asking. So in a case like this, you are much better off, Apple or not, going in and doing that manually. Don't use the click. Don't use the actually offered convenient link. Go find it yourself. Call the company yourself. Click, find the page that they want you to go to yourself, because it guarantees that you will not be redirected somewhere else by doing so. And then in addition to the things, we've got this one on the bottom here that is another dialog that shows up saying background items added, userinnet.sh. This is actually a fairly common piece that's coming up nowadays with software that's getting installed in your computer and may be an indication that your computer's been hacked. As much as we like to think that it's pretty robust and unlikely to happen to a Mac OS or an iPhone, it is still possible. And there are features in there such as this that actually work to stop that and let you know something might be up. Now, in this case, this is legitimate because this was actually an extra startup piece that was added to a machine for VPN use. We had one of the private VPNs installed, and this showed up as a message from that. So we looked at it and I said, yeah, okay, that one we can keep. But you have to watch out because these things can pop up from anywhere, it seems. A lot of the web pages out there, I used to have this thing where you go to the web page and it would bring an extra pop-up in front of your thing saying, system alert, your machine has been hacked. Well, it's the web page doing it. It's not your OS. But, even if you think that it's actually from the OS, you shouldn't pay attention to it. Go find better information than some notification put on your screen. So
phone calls.
Phone calls. So here's where the things are with the phone calls and the things. Again, in most of the specs that these days, what we're concentrating on most here is going to be emails and text messages you get. But occasionally people still do get calls from people. Sometimes it's just something like, oh, hi, this is your bank. That gets rather fun. I love getting calls from people saying, hi, yes, I'm from Chase Bank. Your account is having problems. It's like, I don't have an account with Chase Bank. It's like, okay. And they ask you to confirm your identities and so forth. But there's, if you do have these things, there's an extra thing that often is going on in the things where they're actually trying to hack your account in real time. If you have two-factor authentication, then they'll actually try that and you'll get a response saying, oh, there's some two-factor authentication. We need you to enter the code we're sending you. Well, in the meantime, you've got a guy on the phone saying, oh, yeah, that's us. Can you just read me what that two-factor authentication code is, please? And if you give it to them, they've now logged into your bank and they proceed to pull everything out that they can. One of the older scams that doesn't seem to be happening so much these days, the pay this now or the cops will come to arrest you. It's like the IRS is demanding your money. The state government or some other, official sounding source of things says you owe this bill on the things. And if you don't actually respond, the cops are going to be, at your door to arrest you within the next 20, 30 minutes unless you pay this over the phone. Nobody works that way. Not a single one. So it's amazing to me that people actually have fallen for this. Don't. If somebody calls you this, like, you can only do this by payment over the phone. No, wrong. That's not how any of it ever works. And all of these things these days, rather than cold calling you, are happening as a response to an email or a text or otherwise that gets you to call them. And then they can proceed along on the same path as all the rest. In that similar manner, here's one that's really hitting hard on things. Pig butchering, colorful name. Usually starts with just a random text showing up on your screen saying, hey, are you meeting up with like Frank tonight? And it's like, I'm sorry, you have the wrong person. It's like, oh, who is this? And, starts working from there and starts trying to build personalities on things and get stuff together. And, try to learn a bit more about each other and so forth, and maybe even develop a relationship. Sometimes they can go on for weeks or months on things, but at some point they say, I've got this trouble on things. Can you send me some money? You know, maybe that's just some cute Russian person. Maybe that's otherwise on the thing to know. But of course, if you decide to send money out, well, you'll never see that money again. And you think, oh, these people are all, just ultimate evil, like scammers with the gift of gab, working text and phone numbers. Here's the key, or one of the tricks of the whole thing. A lot of the people actually doing this are not the ones in control. They're as much victim as you are because they have responded to job ads in a lot of the Southeast Asian countries where they have been promptly locked up in a boiler room and told to go do this and steal as much money as they can from people in Western Europe, US, and so forth. And they are physically tortured and beaten if they don't manage to get X amount of money in their prescribed time frame. It is quite literally internet technical slavery. And it is a heavy, heavy problem out there. So it's an interesting thing on the things. It's like, I really hope that nobody here has been trying to develop any sort of a relationship over the phone or over the texting with anybody. But it's sad to know that the people actually doing that are just as much victims as we are. So the most important thing of knowing what signs you're looking for. Watch out for the two-factor logins of things. Watch out for anybody who wants to know the details on things like what account number. I don't think anybody will just come right on and ask you what's your password anymore, but it does happen now and then. If they're wanting payment and things, if they're asking for payment in gift cards, guaranteed, 100%, that's a scam. Nobody works official transactions with gift cards. Nobody. None. Zero. And if you look on a page, especially on email stuff, and you see that all the links go to the same address, again, that's a definite scam. They just want you clicking on that email. There are a lot of other tips to follow on the things, more than I could put into here. One example is the piece that I have here on the right of the screen that I picked up from a source called knowbefore.com, which is a legitimate site for helping stop scams and fraud and the like. This is a PDF that's downloadable from the URL you see below that, and has many of the tips that we as people or our companies can actually follow for knowing how to spot these things. Also, if anybody's interested in any of the information here, most of the pages you've seen on this presentation have extra links at the bottom going to source material and more information. So if anybody is actually interested in these, we should have this presentation, the keynote presentation here posted up on the SV Mug website in a couple of days. On the more advanced side, you can actually, in some respects, go in and check individual mails and pull up the mail headers on something. This is going to be complicated, other things. You need to be technically minded for this. But in some cases, you can actually find out a lot about a particular email scam on the things, most notably where it's coming from, and tell you if it's legitimate or not. You can get at that on Apple Mail through the view menu, all headers option on the things. There is actually a way that you can set that into the menu bar of Apple Mail, so you just have it as a one-click item on the things. And from there, it'll actually show you the behind-the-scenes internet details, the RFC 822 information about who it came from, who it's meant to go to, and most importantly, the path to get from them to you. Take as an example in this one here, you're looking for these received lines, and that's going to be the hops going from one server to the next to the next. Here's the example. Actually, this one came from the I hacked your computer and I recorded you doing untoward things in front of the things. Let me show you the videos. Email at the beginning of all of this. That was sent in this case by an address of carlsonachmuller.se, which I looked up. It actually turns out to be a legitimate fabricator of industrial parts in Sweden. Steered through, in this case, clo3.curigonline.nl, which I also looked up, and it turned out to be a personal web hosting service in the Netherlands. Honestly, this doesn't tell us much. These are legitimate. And the likelihood, look at the things that's like the company site is correct, the people are correct, the services are correct. And so the best conclusion that I can come up to with this is that this is just a person who got personally hacked his personal computer, got some piece of malware, and they just sent out 1,000 emails from his company mail account. So not much to tell here. But occasionally you can actually get useful information out of that. At the very least, you can actually find out the truth of where that message originated. So can be useful. So as a general thing on this stuff, if you get an email or you get a text, don't click on the links in those things. Realistically, unless you are very sure that it's a legitimate thing with someone you have a relationship with, a company you have a relationship with, a transaction you know about, don't ever click on the links. On a Mac, always hover over the link, which will show you the true email address that it goes to. Make certain that address is correct so that, instead of say that it goes to amazon.com, for example, instead of amazeroend.com or something similar to that. On iOS, you can do much the same if you actually just very lightly touch the screen and hold on it. And a little preview window will pop up that actually shows you what that page is. This is actually, unfortunately, much less useful on the Mac. Just looking at the web page itself is not going to show you very much because it's made to look as legitimate as it can. But it will still list the URL at the top of that pop-up. And you can look at that and tell if that's actually a legitimate URL or not. I'm skeptical on using that on iOS because it does still load the web page in question, even if it's within a temporary pop-up window. That could be bad because if they're trying to try any sort of a software malware insertion thing, that could still trigger it. So not sure I would make use of that feature. But that's one of the reasons why, if at all possible, I always try to do the email on my Mac and not on my phone. QR codes. In some cases, if you receive an email with a QR code, just the suspicion should just be everywhere on that. QR codes are a fantastic way of hiding the URL they want you to go to. QR codes can quite literally contain anything. And the bigger, more complex the QR code, the more data that's in it. Maybe it's just a URL. Maybe it's a URL with extra information embedded in it. There is no circumstance I can think of where you would receive an email or a text with a QR that you should then take that and read that with your phone and go to the message on your phone. There are no circumstances. The only case I've ever actually seen legitimately for these things is when you receive, say, a gift card or a coupon from a store, again, one that you have a relationship with. And it's meant as a code for the person in the store to make use of, not you. So if you get a QR in mail, especially, or in text, don't scan it. If your emails come with attachments, do not open those attachments. Again, unless you're very sure that this is legitimate stuff on the things. Those attachments, 90% of the time, have known malware in them. Usually in the form, usually showing itself as like a Word document or an XML file or something like that. But they'll immediately call up the necessary pirate servers and start downloading a whole bunch of malware to your machine. Don't open those files. On texting side of things, it's real easy. And it's like every one of the texts I see has a piece at the bottom that says reply N or stop to stop notices from this number. I don't trust those. I've seen too many cases on the things where replying stop to something may actually stop that individual phone number. But it gives the indication to the people on the other end that that is an active number being viewed. And they'll pick that up and they'll run with that. They'll rarely, if ever, use the same phone number again anyway. So blocking the number really is not going to help you at all. Best advice, if you see them, you can use Apple's feature to mark it as spam, but replying to it is not recommended at this point, in any form. No. So this is all well and good as far as this stuff. But what if you actually have already been scammed? Then what? Then things get a lot stickier on this stuff because you don't know how far that person has actually managed to go into your stuff. The most important element, change passwords immediately. Go into whatever you consider to be possibly hacked, especially financial things, and get passwords changed. It's a hassle, I know. But, you want to stop anybody from trying to reach into things. Look up the true vendor and call them to find out if that particular piece is legitimate and find out from them what they would like you to do about it. Report that also to more important forces like the FTC, government FTC, or the Better Business Bureau, or similar things. There is actually a pretty long list of places and people that you can go to that's like, okay, I've got a hack, now what do I do? To find out stuff. The chances of actually managing to get any money back is pretty slim. But if it can help somebody else, especially the authorities, track them down and shut them down, it's still a help. To that end, here's a couple of options on the things. This is going to be a little bit hard to read for a few of these, but this is why I want to make this keynote available to others later on. With addresses that you can actually mail, send email to Apple, PayPal, US Post Office, to say, oh yes, I got this, faking you guys. Here's all the details. And they will probably not respond or thank you directly on the things, but it will help them find these people and shut them down. If you're looking to actually keep track of new scams and what sort of interesting things are people out there, it amazes me the creativity of these people out there making these scams. I've got a couple of sources on the right here. Yeah, again, sorry, it's a bit hard to read from here, and these are all clickable links with no URLs you can use right now. Most notable, Security Bits with Bart Busschots. This is what Linda uses as a heavy source for the monthly SV Mode news part. In similar manner, the Checklist with Ken Ray. Both of these are kind of podcasts, as well as websites on things, looking at various topical security topics. Ken Ray, you may know as the man who does the daily Mac OS Ken news part. The Checklist is actually in cahoots with Secure Mac, the makers of some of the antivirus software for Macintosh. So good people. Security Now is another option. Steve Gibson is a longtime internet security specialist, and he has a podcast that he runs and a blog detailing some of the stuff that he runs into. The Darknet Diaries is a nice piece. It's a podcast that actually goes delving deeper into things, who it is, what's going on, why are they doing, X, Y, and Z, not just within the scammers, but also the people trying to stop them. Krebs on Security for the detailed people out there. Brian Krebs is one of the great people following scams and fraud and other such stuff. Brian Krebs, for instance, had a major expose on the people putting together physical keypads on ATM machines that would save your ATM card information and let them go, drain your bank accounts just because you used an ATM. And Kaspersky. Yes, I know this is the same Kaspersky that the US banned from US sale, but they still actually have a pretty decent amount of security related information that's good and legitimate and up to date. So some good pieces on this. If you want to, you can keep following the security info and the scam info as a hobby. Maybe not the best of ideas for your well-being, but it's certainly entertaining. Remember, when it comes to fishing, you are the fish. The number of people that are out there on the internet very specifically working any means they can to take your money, to take your computer, or take your identity is massive, and it is growing every year. Stay suspicious, and above all, try to stay safe. With that, we open it up for some questions.
Bravo, Charles. What a great presentation. We've been hit by all of them. We've not gotten stuck with any of them, but it was a great presentation. I wish more people could see it.
I have one question, Charles. Invariably in messages, I get it's obviously junk messages, but they come through as political messages. And there's a second thing that says, delete or whatever it says, and then underneath some of them say report junk.
Do that.
So invariably I report junk. Do you know where that goes? Is that worth? Is that it? It sounds like
Unmute. Can you
it
mute?
goes to Apple,
to
but
talk.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's worth actually explaining in detail on a number of items. First of all, political text. I imagine that everybody here has been inundated with political text in the last 3 to 6 months on things. There is a special carve out in laws that says that they can send those regardless of circumstances. You, Apple, telecom companies cannot stop those by law, which is unfortunate on the things, but it is the way of things. When you see the pieces at the bottom that say reply stop, in some cases that's actually picked up by the telecom companies who say, okay, we'll add this to a list of blocked numbers for your account. I don't know how much that gets shared. I don't think it is. But if you do, they have said in some circumstances on that, that they'll actually aggregate those things and mark a number from the beginning as spam within the telecom companies. I know that T-Mobile and Verizon have both done that to some degree on things. So on that mark, stop may be useful. But that's if the message is actually coming out from the telecom, and I don't have assurance of that. If that message is coming from the sender, then you have to rely entirely upon the sender's trying to think of what the proper word is, honesty of, it's like, yes, we'll remove you from our list. It's like, well, maybe they will and maybe they won't. That's for the message itself. Underneath that message, like you mentioned, there'll show up a thing saying report spam. That is from Apple. And that actually is going to be local on your phone or on your Mac. And that one, at least I know, is legitimate on that level. You click that. First of all, it's going to block that number on your phone. Second thing is it's going to report that number to Apple, and Apple will aggregate that and mark something as being spam. So if given a choice on those things, if you delete a number, delete a text message kind of thing, and it says, would you like to report that as spam? Do, very much do. Because that at least we know will contribute and be used properly.
Okay.
Others?
I unmute.
Okay. Linda has a question. I may need to actually bobble the connection around here.
Okay.
Turn your speaker off.
Okay. All right. So I do it this way. I have two comments. One is that on the FedEx page that you showed, the FedEx scam, anybody who gets anything from FedEx would take a look at that format and know that that is not a normal FedEx tracking number, because their numbers are usually like all numbers and it's 18 numbers long. So I just to point that one out. And then also you mentioned on two of them, the FedEx one being one, and I think the next one, that they are graphics. How did you determine that they are graphics?
Determining they are graphics, I actually had to, the key for me was I hovered over different parts of it to see what sort of messages were popping up. But beyond that, I think I actually tried dragging it and the whole page dragged instead of just one little thing. So I couldn't select any individual text. Let me see if I can actually demonstrate that. I'm going to stop the sharing on this window. And then I'm going to pop over to an email message. Let's see if I can find that original message, actually. No. Bear with me a moment here.
If you can't, just the dragging is maybe good enough.
Let me take this as a possible example on things. I'll share this one out. Here. So here's another simple one that we got on things. Action needed, please confirm activity on things. Okay, let's see what we can find here. Starting at the top, chase fraud prevention. Hover over that a moment. David Hammond at highcloud.com. Okay. So not Chase.
Okay.
So big strike. Unusual debt notification to undisclosed recipients. Okay, that's also a big strike. What are they doing sending it to an undisclosed when it should be saying it to you?
It also has a colon and a semicolon. I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure what that means either. Going down the list here, Chase activity. Yeah, if I hover over this. Okay, so that much doesn't seem to be getting. Yes, I recognize it. Uh-oh, I seem to have lost my things.
What?
I've lost my pop-ups.
Pop-ups?
Okay, let me try again. There we go. Oh dear, that's complicated.
You don't have to go through it. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
Interestingly, though, in this particular case, this is steering through Google Ads. It says googleads.g.goubleclick.net. That's actually a legitimate Google Ads link. But where it goes on the far end is anybody's guess. And that's actually one of the scams. Somebody figured out how to actually hack the Google Ads system to
Yeah.
get stuff out of it. And if I just look at some of the text, I know it's like horribly complicated to see, but if I then come over to the other one.
That one doesn't want to, is that a graphic
Whoops.
thing?
Oh.
No, it's not.
This one is not a graphic. And I see a whole bunch of
Google Ads. It's another Google
the
Ads.
stuff. It's this, but
It might be the same
I can
one.
tell by looking at this, which is hard to tell from here. These two are the same link.
Yeah, cute.
So let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I'm hovering over white space and I'm getting actually, let me back up a second. Do you see the pop-up at all?
When the pop-up, you mean the text?
Yeah, that.
Yes.
Okay. I'm hovering over white space and it's getting a link.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to happen. And if I try selecting it, there's the key.
Yeah, you can't select it. Got it. So it's
Now, this
aggressive.
is something you cannot see, unfortunately, is if I grab this, the whole email page shows up as a graphic that I can drag somewhere else.
I
This
see.
is entire thing. This is not an individual. This is not text. This is a
I
JPEG.
get it. Thank you. That's good. Yeah, okay, I get it.
And if I come down here to the bottom, now this gray part at the bottom is not part of that.
Right.
It was like mail to sender email subject unsubscribe.
Interesting.
Well, I think that's more JavaScript actually than otherwise. But that just reports back to the same sort of person and they don't care if they see that or not.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So
I was curious about how you determined that.
So that's, a way to handle that.
Okay, we should.
I actually have one other piece if I can find it. No, I don't see it on hand, so I'm going to skip over that. So,
Okay.
so there's some pieces on the things. These guys are very creative. They're learning new tricks around this stuff every week.
Yeah.
Got to keep some news. Got to keep on top of some of the news on that. Linda does a great job, by the way, of actually getting the relevant security information and news onto onto the front news section of every meeting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if I may, I would add one more thing. Two more little things. One is that if somebody is contacting you, be suspicious. somebody contacts you and says they're from Apple, they're from Chase, they're from whatever. If they're contacting you, however, telephone, whatever means, be suspicious. You can hang up or disconnect the communication, and then you yourself directly call Apple, Bank of America, whomever, and say, is there an issue? But you call, you look up the phone number, you're the one who's in control. That is kind of just a standard thing. And I had one more that escaped right out of my head. So I'll just leave it at that. That's kind of a general rule. If you have a doubt, hang up, get rid of them. Oh, I know, I was going to tell this one. I have been getting a call, not recently, but I got several calls in a row from somebody to my Google Voice number, which I do not call, I do not use. And it's somebody who says their name is Pam Miller or Pam Smith or Sally, whatever, whatever. And they leave a message and they say, call me. And I look up the phone number, and it is from a collection agency. Now, I'm very good about paying my bills, and I can't imagine why I would have a collection agency, but that they would call a Google Voice number that I almost never use, rather than if it was a real collection agency, you would get something by snail mail, right? So I have just not ever bothered to do anything with that. And if I owe somebody money, eventually they'll catch me, I guess. But I don't think it's real. And just as a heads up, because you look at that and you go, oh, a collection agency, gee, did I forget, an old credit card or something, whatever. I mean, the thought goes through your head, did I miss one? But dollars to donuts, that's also a fake. So there you go.
There it is.
Okay, Jerry has his
Now
hand
we
raised.
go on to
I don't know
anybody technical questions? Should we go on to see if anybody's got that or anything else?
Yeah. Jerry?
I got a call or a text message a while back that said, call this number. Spectrum has changed the rules and you're going to get your charge is going to go up. So I'm thinking about it. Well, should I call? So I called the number and I talked to this guy. He seemed to know, it sounded like he knew what he was talking about and everything. And so we made a deal. So he was going to lower my price from whatever it was, 90 something down to 79. And I said, that sounds great. He said, but there's a catch. And I said, what's the catch? Oh, you have to pay it all up front. And that's when I said, this sounds like a scam to me. And he said, don't say scam.
Charles, can you?
But I hung up and that was the end of that. But I thought about it, I thought I was going to call Spectrum. I mean, I had a telephone number that would contact this guy, right? So I called Spectrum and I told them what the deal was. And they said, yeah, let us check it out. They called me back a little while later and said, hey, we do in fact have a deal. And they lowered my price down to $79 or whatever it was. And I got a faster speed. So I don't know if it was because I was helpful or they really did have this going on. I don't know. But I think if you have that chance to help them out, I would do it.
Very nice. Other things. The one thing I would say is, was an indication that it's the thing of you called the number that they gave you on that instead.
And that was the number I gave to Spectrum.
Yeah. So, I mean, good on the trace back on that. The feedback you gave to the company is perfect. Just be careful of the thing, because that's one of those cases. If you have the suspicions on the things, go to that company's website, get the number from there and call that one instead.
Well, I did. I called the number I found on the internet. And I told them what the number was they needed to call. This turned out this guy was from Ohio someplace, and they called him. I guess I hope they put him in jail or something, but I don't know what happened. I have no way. All I know is I got a deal out of it.
Yeah. Excellent. Well handled.
Okay, Charles, you have more hands raised. Dan and Pam and Jerry again, I think.
All right.
So Dan and Pam, do you want to?
Yeah, just wanted to ask to confirm kind of why people go to the trouble of making a message a JPEG, right? Is this to like fool spam filters, or why go to the trouble of making a spam, I mean, a text JPEG of a email rather than just an email?
I believe you have it correct on that, Mark, that they're actually doing it to try to avoid the spam filters, especially since they can obfuscate the graphics. And spam filters from companies like Apple and Google and the like are not necessarily up to speed on scanning text in photos. That's a fairly new technology. So the expectation on that is that if they put it in as the graphics, then you're going to have many more circumstances where it'll clear through to your inbox rather than getting caught by spam filters.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Others? Any last ones? Okay. Well, in that case, we will conclude it on here. I will finish off just by reiterating, stay suspicious and stay safe.